I have a question about your drum set. You're facing a recording session, so how do you go about choosing what you're going to use? So as far as I know, you've had the same kit for quite a long time, and you use it on a lot of sessions. But so how does the thinking process go there? Is it simply like, oh, this is my kit slash my sound? And as an engineer, I know, in the mixing process, there's still a lot to be decided in terms of how it's going to sound anyway. So I'm just going to use that. Or is it something else? How do you go about choosing the size of your kit? Because you can go for a more metal kit or like slim it down a little bit. How do you go about choosing the cymbals?
Part of that answer is simply, I do have one drum kit and I never got around to actually buy a super expensive second one, which resulted in me needing to get the most out of my drum kit and really know my drum set, what it is capable of, and when it shouldn't be used and when it should. So I had a couple of recording sessions where I actually played on a kit provided by the studio. We set them up, next to each other, one another, and then just, listen to the sound, and if it was appropriate or the better choice to go for the different kit, then yeah, sure, no problem. But luckily, most things I performed on do have similar needs. If you were to ask me to play on a super fast death metal record, yeah, sure, then I wouldn't use the drum kit I have. But most things I recorded were suitable for my drum kit with like little changes as far as drum tuning goes or drum heads go. So if you talk about like the toms and stuff, it's usually a choice. Is it clear heads or coated heads? And for the non-drummers out there, it's a difference in warmth and a difference a little bit in attack. So it's a little bit more a clean sound versus a warm sound, if I put it like broadly. And I've did like the clear heads for a long time. The last record, I think I did that on, well, at least with you, was the last Exvius record. But then I started to switch to like the coated heads because I did like the character more. And just like you said, I knew by then already, and now for sure, I know what's possible once you start mixing. There are still lots of things you can do to pull it in a certain direction or shape it a certain kind of way. Especially with drums, because you always have the option to add samples, so to layer, so to speak. So not much choice there. I did change snares. I do have a couple of snares to choose from, but there as well we went for the same snare for the last few projects.
It just sounds so good, that thing.
It's a Black Beauty, yes.
It's also like I learned that later, like I didn't know that, but you probably did when you bought it. Like that's a really like famous snare, right?
Oh yeah, it's on thousands of records.
Yeah, okay, but like I can recall, was that for One God Less that we tried like 7 different ones or so?
Yeah.
And I just remember like how much that one stood out. Just exactly the same mic setup and everything. And I also, just because my nerdy analytical side was just curious, like why is this snare so like different and so much more popping and pro sounding? And it's a couple of years ago, so I don't remember exactly, but it did have to do with the overtones, how they were stacked up, like just very different from all the other snares. And the other snares didn't sound bad either, but this one, just compared to it, was just like cook in your face and open and also stylistically so applicable and appropriate for lots of different genres as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, totally agree. So I'm very happy to have found that, especially that snare, but also that combination. I'm very happy with the bass, so to speak. And with cymbals, I do have a little bit more choice. So I have a big stack of cymbals, thanks to Meinl. And here we did interchange some cymbals.
Like I was just reminded of the fact that in pre-production one day you forgot or something your normal ride. You didn't have it with you, and so you used this crash cymbal instead. And I ended up liking it so much on one song, because it sounded not exactly like a ride, but kind of. And I think we did the same on the record, right? For one or two songs.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Happy Accidents.
But yeah, it's kind of, while you were talking about your drum setup and how you approach it, it reminds me of how I use my guitars these days, you know, which is kind of similar in a way that they're not the most luxurious offer on choice. They're incredibly versatile, and I just really, from a psychological point of view, I just really like having my kind of limited tools to paint with. You don't rely on the gear anymore so much. It's much more what's in your head and what's in your hands, and you know the tool that works for you. So I don't know, there's certain charm there.
Yeah, well said, and totally agree. That's also one of the reasons why why I've sticked with my setup in terms of, you know, how many toms, etc. Because I view it more and more as it is an extension, right? I mean, the instrument becomes more and more of an extension of yourself when playing. It's toolbox you talked about, and how I put it to use. I'd rather be creative. I did the last little thrash metal band called the Nunumin. I gathered, I think, 6 toms in total.
Oh wow!
Just for those 2 times, I could really, which is cool. But nowadays, I would find a different approach that would give the same result in terms of vibe or feeling or tension build up, whatever.
Yeah, I came to, as on the other side, as not being a drummer, but someone who records drummers and plays with drummers, I really came to love that approach quite a lot better in most cases and most genres, I should say.